Hello, friends. I hope everyone is enjoying the beautiful weather and the summer breaks that we all get to have. And I thought that I would have a bit of a different series through the summer. And I want to talk a little bit about finance lies that I used to believe that I no longer subscribe to. And the first one, I think, is a doozy that almost everyone is going to be able to identify with in one way or another. And that is that faith and finance don't mix. Hey, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Kristyn. I'm an authorized infinite banking practitioner. I help Canadian families and business owners reclaim control over their money, create financial peace, and live the abundant lives that they were meant to live by keeping more of their hard-earned dollars working for them. So I really want to kind of dig into this a little bit because I think a lot of us have this at such a root level in our lives that we think that money and faith or your beliefs don't mix, that they shouldn't go together. And I used to think that a lot. I grew up thinking that it was selfish or wrong to desire wealth. I know that's very common among especially Christians. I used to think that money was evil, which, by the way, the Bible does not say that money is evil. The verse is actually, the root of all evil is the love of money. It's the love of money, the making money an idol, making that the thing that you want the most and making that the most important thing. That is the root of all evil. And I truly believe that. But money itself is just a thing. It's just a tool. And we can use any tool for good or we can use it for evil. So let's dig into this a little bit more because I've come a long way over the years. I have been studying the Bible for nearly 2 decades now. I can confidently say that faith and finances have to be aligned. Not only do they mix, but they must be aligned if you want to live in the abundance that you were meant to live in. I used to think that it was greedy to desire to have money or to desire to have nice things. And I think it stems more from the idea that if you have more, that means that someone else has less. How many of us believe that lie, right? In society, we kind of demand that everyone has this baseline, that the very basis for social aid and social assistance is that we force taxpayers to support those who aren't as fortunate. But the truth is that we grow the economy by providing value. So those taxpayers, the people that are making all of the money, they're providing value to be able to make that money. And when they make the money, they're assuming that they're using it in a way that they're buying things, that they're buying other services. They're actually they're growing the economy themselves. If we want to think about business owners themselves are growing the economy. They're providing value, they're providing a service, or they're providing goods to other people that's enriching their lives. And they're exchanging money for those goods, of course, and then they take that money and guess what? They can pay their employees. They're employing people. They're taking it a step further, and not only are they employing people, but now they're spending more money to buy the goods that they need. They're able to pay for more services that in their own lives, they're able to hire people maybe helping maintain their household, or they're hiring more people inside their business to support what they're doing. So I think kind of on a society level, we need to get back to the idea that it's good to want to provide value and it's good for people to pay you for that value. In the same way that it's a good thing for me to pay someone if I'm hiring a contractor to help with some home repairs, I think that's a good thing. That's helping them. It's helping the economy, the services, the goods that they are having to buy is further growing our economy on a local level. And then it just kind of expands from there. So the more money that businesses are making, the more that they are injecting back into the economy, the more they're able to help, the more they're able to hire more people. But ultimately, let's just kind of get back to that lie that it's not greedy to want success. We could go into the Bible even further, and I don't want to turn this into a preachy video by any means. So I'll leave some verses down in the description, but it's biblical to provide service and to be able to exchange goods and services for each other and for money and to keep growing the economy further. Now, going back to the lie, part of my belief was that I used to think that God doesn't care about money. I thought that it was selfish for me to pray for abundance when there's people that, just starving kids in Africa. And so you need to finish your plate because the kids in Africa would love to have that food. That kind of mentality. And that goes like back to our education system. It's just in society. That's kind of the way that we speak about things, is in order for one person to have something, you're taking it away from someone else. And I used to think that it was selfish. Like, how dare I pray for a raise or a better job, or maybe a deal on a new car because I have to replace my car, when there's people that can't afford a car. They would like any job. They would like a bike so that they can get to work and they are not even dreaming about a car. So I used to think that that was something that had to be completely separate, that I shouldn't be praying for those kind of things because I wasn't bad off enough. I should be praying for that other person that's maybe in worse shape than I am. And I realized over the years that money is actually the only area that God invites us to test him in. I don't want to get legalistic here. I don't want to get into any of that. But what I will say is that my income has grown exponentially since I learned to hold it with an open hand. I have to remember that everything I have is a blessing. It's not mine. It's something that was entrusted to me, and I have to steward it. I have to use it well. I have to use it in a way that shows my faith, that shows good stewardship, and that it aligns with my values and the way that I want to live my life. So the more generous I am, the more I'm blessed with. That's just been my experience. And the truth is that God wants us to live abundantly. He doesn't command us to be poor. If we go back to scripture, it says that he promises abundance over and over and over again. We're actually commanded to help the poor. We're commanded to help the widows. You can't help them if you yourself are poor. That was such an aha moment for me, because until I heard that, I used to think that it was holier, that you were somehow closer to God if you were living in poverty. And, I think we kind of get that from, like, you look at monks and priests, they have a vow of poverty. You look at people like Mother Teresa, like people that didn't accumulate things for themselves. That doesn't mean that there's no money there. It means that they are using that money for good things. It doesn't mean that they don't use money. They still, drive cars. They still have to have food. They still have to do all of these things. And guess what? If they are not making the money to provide those things, someone else is. Someone else has to have more than enough for themselves. It's not enough to want just enough to get by. If we're commanded to help other people, if we're commanded to help the poor, help the needy, help the widows, help the children, we must have more than enough for ourselves. Like I said, I don't want to get into, that it's wrong to have this thing and not this thing, and that you shouldn't drive a car that's over X amount of dollars. I don't think that's what this is about at all. What I really want to stress is what I have learned in my own life, and that's that I have to just hold the things that I've been blessed with an open arms, with open hands. And if it's taken away from me, that's fine. It wasn't mine to start with. When more comes, that's amazing. I want to use that to bless the people around me. I want to use that to show what God has done in my life. If I start talking about my career for a second, I used to believe that faith has to be separated from what I do for a living. So when I was a project manager and I was working for these really big companies, there was luxury brands, there was Fortune 500 companies, and I was so misaligned with these companies. And part of my job was setting up events and coordinating things for some of these events or celebrations or different things. And some of them were events that I would never support personally. They just weren't things that lined up with my values. And a lot of these big corporate things just didn't align with what I believed. And I found the more I was doing it, the more it just felt wrong. I felt like I was almost living a double life, because in my personal life, I wasn't supporting any of these things. And yet professionally, I was having to call suppliers and ask them to make up t-shirts or banners or whatever for these events that I personally would never, ever, ever have supported. So I really hit a point that's when I decided to change careers, because I had hit a point that I was so literally felt like I was living two lives. I was not aligned with that, but I was still doing it. And corporately, I was like polished and professional. And then personally, I was burnt out, and I just knew that what I was doing was not aligning with my personal values. When I decided to change careers and get into becoming an infinite banking practitioner, and most of my friends and family, they heard life insurance broker, and they had never heard of infinite banking. Everyone thought that I was completely off my rocker. They thought I went crazy. They were asking, okay, that's great, but where are you going to find your clients? And the funny thing is I remember saying, well, I'm not. My clients are going to find me. And looking back, I realized how crazy that sounded. I saw it in my head. I knew when I made that decision, I had my whole business planned out in my head. I could see it. I could see that the only way for me to succeed was to do it in alignment with what I believed, and be upfront about what I believe, the things that I believe are right, the things that I believe are wrong, and to just be completely true to myself. I wasn't going to hide anything. I certainly don't put myself out there. In fact, I couldn't even fathom the thought of putting myself out here and having YouTube videos, because it was so outside of my comfort zone. It was something that I never, ever thought that I would be able to do. But I had this vision of this brand that I was going to build, and it was so aligned with what I felt inside. And from the minute that I started doing this, the level of freedom and peace that I have felt, despite financially, I've had hard times, but despite that, just the level of peace that I have experienced, knowing that what I'm doing is in alignment with what I am meant to do. It became so clear to me that everything, even these jobs that I had done, the project management and those kind of things, all of the skills that I learned in that role, even though some of it was things that I didn't align with, everything led me up to what I am doing today. Everything was a learning experience. Some of it was telling me, showing me what I did not want to do, how gross it felt to be doing things that were outside of my own convictions. So what I can say is that it put me in such a position that, one, I knew that I was only going to succeed. That was such a bold statement for me to say. I'm not going to look for clients. They're going to find me. That was such a bold, maybe naive statement to have, but I saw it. I knew that that was where I was going to be, and I didn't necessarily see the path that would get me there, but I knew that if this was something that I was truly meant to do, that it was going to work out. And so I can show you quickly kind of what happened. I think it was almost 3 years ago now, sitting down, and I was in the middle of a workshop, and I don't think it was something that I paid for. I think it was like an online marketing, some kind of workshop of building your own brand. And I sat down and I made notes, and I can show you that quickly. So I made notes just in a kind of flow chart of, I am going to teach infinite banking. That's what I'm going to do. And then I started drawing little lines out from it. We can see that I have all these little things. And some of it was, these are the steps that I need to get there. I need to find quality mentors. I need to find an agency that will hire me. I need to get licensed. I need to get licensed in my home province. I need to get licensed in these other provinces. What else is on here? I need to build systems. I need to build templates. I need to have an email list. I need to learn how to market. I need to set up a newsletter. Some of them were things that were eventually, I was looking at this honestly at the time as like a 5 to 10 year plan. Like, this is what I plan to do. This is what I would like to grow myself into. And it didn't mean staying with an agency. It meant going completely independent, but I knew that I had to start with an agency. I want to have courses. I want to have a training program. I want to have a YouTube channel. I want to have some kind of app or program that can help my clients track their policies. And what I can say is that almost everything on this list, I'm not quite 3 years in, And almost everything on this list I've already achieved. This was my 5 to 10 year list, guys. This was my wildest dreams at the time. YouTube was such a faraway thing. That was not even on my radar of, I want to start this. It was something that I should do because I should have some kind of training program, and YouTube would be a great place to do that. I was picturing like maybe a private membership or something. It did not even cross my mind that I would have platforms, that I would have social media following, and that I would have a bank now of YouTube videos on here. And so I'm telling you all of this because I want you to kind of learn from my experience that when I decided that my belief system, and if you're not a Christian, you can say your values or your, what you're rooting your life in, whatever your core message is, when you're working with that and you're using that as part of your career and you're using that to govern how you are managing your money, the way that you're using money, not just in your business, but in the things that you support, when you're using your money to buy from companies that you believe in, when you're purposely buying from local vendors, even if it costs more, rather than just going on Amazon. And I do that too, guys. I still use Amazon all the time. But if I have a local vendor that makes something, an artisan, anything like that, I much prefer to support them than someone online. I have just moved so much away from things like I buy my meat from a farm directly and bypass the grocery store completely. I buy from like the Wellness Box. I like to use their products because I trust, I like their values that they stand for. And I'm choosing to make conscious decisions with how I'm spending my money. I'm choosing to be generous. I'm choosing to donate money. I am choosing to see, even just to have open eyes when I see someone that I know that has a need and that I can meet that need. I don't even question it. This is the abundant life that I am on a mission to share with other people, because I want everyone else to experience the freedom that I have experienced. The freedom of knowing that if I have a friend who needs something and it's in any way, shape, or form in my power to help them, I do it without question. I don't have to check my bank account first. The idea that I don't have to check my bank account before I pay my bills. Do you know how freeing that is to you when you can go to the grocery store and you can go to Walmart? It's been a long time that's not an issue for me, but I still remember it every time I go into a store and I don't have to check my bank account first, because that's a place that I lived in for a long time, that I really held on to every dollar really tightly because we had so little. And I truly think that we had so little because we held on to it so tightly. And so it's all kind of intertwined. When I built my business, I centered my mission around helping families and businesses live that free and abundant life that they were meant to live. It's not just about money. It's all aspects of their lives. I want them to experience the same freedom that I have in my faith, because that has been the single most transforming thing in my life. I want them to use the infinite banking concept because I want them to exit that traditional banking system. I want them to build wealth and a financial foundation that allows them to steward the wealth that they are given and to help it grow so that they can live abundant lives. I want them to have that freedom that they can pass this on to their kids. I want them to not worry about job losses or market fluctuations or whether the housing market's going to crash, or if they have emergency repairs come up or medical expenses. I want them to have that freedom that when those things come, they don't have to worry about it. They have somewhere to go that they can take the cash, and it's not a big deal. It's just not an issue. That's what I want my clients to understand. I'm not doing what I do to become rich. I'm not trying to help my clients become rich and go buy all the fancy cars and go buy a mansion. And if you choose to do that, that's fine. But that's not the purpose. The purpose is to have the freedom to be able to choose to live according to your values. Bottom line, the freedom to be able to help those in need. And because you have the security that you can help them when it comes up. And then finally, I want my clients to have not just the freedom themselves, but I want them to be able to pass on not just the wealth, but the stewardship of that wealth and the way that they're handling their money. I want them to teach their kids how to do that. I want their kids to have that same freedom. Imagine if you had that from the time that you were young, if you had that going into adulthood, that you had the freedom and that stable foundation, that money just wasn't an issue. You could afford to be generous because you're not looking at it as something you have to afford. You're looking at it as just more money that it's flowing through you, right? I can't even describe the peace that I have found in doing this work. Financially, it hasn't been all sunshine and roses. I've gone months without pay. Even now, I'm waiting on, I'll say 90% of the work that I've done this year. I have not gotten paid for yet. And it's all things that are beyond my control. Sometimes there's medical things that are delayed, or a policy is not approved and we have to go with another insurer. There's a lot of things that can put delays. But I have so much peace in knowing that this is what I'm meant to do. And the clients that come to me, these are the people that I'm meant to help. And even when I turned off my marketing, I turned off ads several months ago now, I still have a steady stream of new clients coming in every single week that are booking calls and that are asking me for help. And these aren't big clients. Some of them are very, very small. And to be honest, those are the ones that I love helping the most because I can see the biggest difference in their lives. I can see them go from like rock bottom almost to that abundant life and that freedom where they know they don't have to worry anymore. So what I can say is that for me, it wasn't until I put my faith and my finances together and I trusted them together and I was able to completely give up my finances, give up I talk about wanting control all the time, but I had to give up the control and say, okay, God is sovereign. He's going to tell me what to do with this. He's going to tell me how I should be investing in my business. And when I started taking those leads and the more I pray about things, the more guidance I get. And I can tell you that the success that I have had from doing this has been beyond anything that I have ever imagined. Even when I started, I couldn't imagine being where I'm at now. Given the amount of time that I've been in this industry, I couldn't have even fathomed where I'm at now. I wouldn't have hoped that I could be independent at this point. I've been independent for 2 years. And the number of people, just the sheer number of people that I've been able to help, both corporately in businesses and personally and with families. And most of my clients, if they haven't started their kids yet, their kids are coming in shortly after and we're setting up their kids. And it's the most amazing feeling to see everyone just kind of combine and see these families working together for their common, for their family bank. It's such an amazing feeling. So to close out, I just want to encourage you that when you put your beliefs and your faith and your finances together, that's the only way that you're going to live in that truly abundant and truly free way that I promote, that I'm looking for my clients. If this is something that you're interested in, I encourage you to give me a like, hit subscribe. When you're ready to take the next step, click the link in the description and you can access my free resources and book a call to start. Your future self will thank you. Until next time, live free.